All right. Before we begin this episode, I would like to issue a heartfelt apology to the podcast audience for only having one episode up last week. As you know, I like to have at least two, sometimes three per week. We only had one episode up last week. And the reason for that is exclusively because my podcast partner, Sergio Mora, is a dumbass and was only in the 4 days off I take per year, was unable to put together a podcast with the audio quality good enough to meet the standards I require for this audience. So for that, I apologize. I can promise you for at least the next 51 weeks, I don't take any more vacation, for at least the next 51 weeks, the podcast feed will be populated by at least 2 episodes per week. Sergio, would you like to rebut or further that apology? Because that's my statement and I'm sticking with it.
Well, listen, everyone knows that I'm not technology prone, okay? How long did it take me to figure out Wi-Fi on an airplane, Chris Mannix? You were there when I finally discovered there was
5
Wi-Fi on an
years.
airplane 20,000
5
feet in the air.
years.
Exactly. So how do you expect me to handle the burden of a podcast with thousands of listeners and our producer who's on there, Adam, taking care of everything? I'm the talent, Mannix. I'm the artiste. I'm the one that brings the quality to the show. You're the backbone. You're the hard worker. You're the boots on the ground. I just bring my savviness and I bring my IQ. And like I said, I'm the talent. So to that, I just say you got to accept me for who I am, my friend. Accept me for who I am.
Okay, that was the furthest thing from apology, but I guess we'll just have to move on from
And I
from there.
apologize to my podcast listeners because there was a kid yesterday at the fights. His name's Vinny. Vinny from Chicago, 11-year-old kid. He wanted me to call you a pencil neck. And he loves it when I call you a pencil neck. I don't know why. So Vinny, that's for you, buddy. Chris Mannix is a pencil neck. Keep listening to the show. Your dad was a cool
Shout
guy.
out Shout out to the podcast listeners in Chicago. I met about a half a dozen of them just during my walks through the arena. Dedicated audience. Tell me they listen every single week. We love to hear from you, see you, interact with you. It's great. Always enjoy those experiences. All right. We were in Chicago on Saturday night. You are still there as we record this on Sunday afternoon. You refuse to leave wearing your Wrigley Field t-shirt. And I mean, you are like, just such a tourist. You're such a tourist wherever you go. First thing you did when you got to Chicago was go to Wrigley Field. Shout out, by the way, to John Cusack, who we ran into. You hung out with him at Wrigley. I got to talk to him a little bit at the fight on Saturday. Huge boxing fan. Huge boxing guy, John Cusack. Great actor, of course, and big time into the boxing space. But he was at the fight, and we got a pretty good collection of fights, Sergio. And I want to start with the top of the bill, and that was the main event between Oscar Duarte and Kenneth Sims. Two top 5 guys in the 140-pound division. They've been circling each other for the better part of a year. This was a fight that was supposed to take place last November at Latino Night. Kenneth Sims had to withdraw from that fight, citing an injury. Oscar Duarte said he didn't believe him, said he thought he was ducking. They reconvene in August, and they fight in Kenneth Sims' hometown of Chicago, Illinois. I thought coming in, it had a chance to be a fight of the year contender. It wasn't exactly that, but it was still a pretty good fight. 1-1 by Oscar Duarte, majority decision. 2 judges scoring it for Duarte, 1 judge scoring it a draw. Your takeaways from watching Duarte Sims?
Well, if you remember my takeaways, or if you remember my predictions, I said Sims was going to be a handful. That Sims was going to be a potential upset, and I think he did everything he had to do to win, but it wasn't enough. And it was nothing against Kenneth Sims Jr. He boxed well. I think he could have thrown more body shots and maybe controlled the fight a little bit more with double and triple jabs. But whenever you have a guy like Oscar Duarte who has great timing, what he lacks in speed, he makes up in timing. He was timing those shots over the top. So he was smart enough to know what he can get away with. But I think he fought the best he could possibly fight. And Kenneth Sims Jr., I praise his performance. Even in the loss, I praise his performance against like Duarte. So that's that. But wow, let's talk about Oscar Duarte, man. I mean, this guy is going to be hard to stop. He is going to be hard to stop because he's a bulldozer. He's a big, muscular, intimidating guy that keeps coming forward. And I see some I see some little changes in him now that I think Robert Garcia has been working with him now. He doesn't overload on his shots anymore. He doesn't wing his punches with the power anymore. They're nice and tight, concise punches. So even though he has a wide back and he's a big, intimidating, muscular figure, he's a tight puncher. And it's hard to penetrate that technique when you're that tight, that muscular. And those are the problems that Sims Jr. and a lot of other boxers are going to have. They're going to have to be content hitting gloves and forearms and just pecking and poking here and there. But to hurt that man, good luck.
Yeah, I thought both these guys fought pretty good fights. Coming in, I thought Oscar Duarte's power was going to give him an advantage, and it did. The big edge. Look, both these guys landed exactly the same number of punches. 229 punches landed. The difference, though, was that for Kenneth Sims, 119 of those punches were jabs, just 57 for Duarte. On the flip side, 172 of the punches that Duarte landed were power shots, just to 110 for Sims. So that was the ball game right there. It's not like Sims fought a bad fight, but when your best scoring weapon is the jab and you're doing it and winning that, battle by a wide margin, and your opponent, their best weapon is a power shot and they're winning that by a wide margin, it's tough to get a win. It's tough to win a fight when that's the case. I thought if Sims goes back and he will go back and look at the tape on this, he'll see probably spent a little bit too much time on the ropes during some of these rounds, giving Duarte opportunities to tee off and land those 4, 5, 6 punch combinations. Even the ones he didn't land, they were kind of eye-catching. Like he was just throwing these haymakers that were, sometimes getting through, sometimes they were hitting the gloves, but they were eye-catching. I think that's ultimately what cost Kenneth Sims in this fight. I agree with you on Duarte. This was his 4th fight with Robert Garcia. During this stretch, he has not only done the things that you talked about, but he's become a more active and accurate body puncher. 53 of the punches landed by Oscar Duarte in this fight, the power punches landed were body shots. And that was an effective weapon against a guy who likes to move like Kenneth Sims Jr. I thought Kenneth Sims was in great shape. Again, fought a good fight, but I thought Duarte's power was the difference maker. So I know there are obviously Sims fans out there that had issue with the way the scores played out. I don't think you can look at this fight and think that Kenneth Sims won it.
I think I did Sims Jr. I mean, we're always going to get the critics. I mean, I get guys that saying that I always hate against the aggressive, pressure fighter style, and I usually favor a boxer. That's not the case. You have to bring out the things that the boxer is doing well, because the boxer can't compete with the power of a puncher, and the puncher can't compete with the skills of a boxer. So those are the little nuances that I like to pick apart. Sometimes I focus a little bit too much on the boxer because that's harder to do, Chris Mannix. It's harder to box. It's harder to do the sweet science than just to go and throw, caution to the wind with power and combinations. Look, it's a difficult sport. I try to be as fair and as balanced as possible. I brought out all the things I think Kenneth Sims Jr. was doing. I think I brought them to life, but Duarte won this fight. And Duarte, he won the only way he knows how, and that's just digging away every round, even in close rounds, being able to just steal that round with an extra flurry or just an extra combination. Duarte's going to win on attrition, and if you can't hurt that man, but Sims Jr. hurt him. I don't know if you forgot that he hurt him. Sims Jr. was throwing the shot. I want you to watch that fight again. It was in the mid rounds. Sims Jr. was catching with the left hand and returning with the same left hand. That's a difficult thing to do, but he actually caught Duarte off guard and he rocked him one time middle of that round, and he started doing it. He maybe did it 2 more times. That would have been the punch that would have actually either rocked him, hurt him, or won a round convincingly for Sims, but he didn't do it enough. And of course, more to the body, maybe doubling up on the body shots. But yeah, catch and counter. That was his bread and butter. He just didn't do it enough. But he got the respect of Duarte, and Duarte brought that out afterwards. He said, "Man, this was a tough fight." Garcia said the same thing.
So this was a WBA 140-pound title eliminator. It wasn't a final eliminator, so Oscar Duarte is not guaranteed to get a world title shot, but he was ranked number 5 by the WBA coming in. Sims was at number 4. Duarte is going to jump those rankings. The 3 guys, though, ahead of him in the WBA rankings. The WBA has, as they always do, two champions at 140 pounds. Gary Antuanne Russell is the legitimate champion. Alessandro Riccicini, who I've never heard of, is the interim champion at 140. So I don't like. I know there was a lot of talk after that fight from Duarte's team that this is going to earn them a world title shot. I don't believe that it will. I mean, I guess maybe if you're Gary Antuanne Russell and you don't have a fight out there that makes sense, you can do an optional defense against Duarte. Not to say I wouldn't love to see it. I think Duarte against Gary Russell is a phenomenal fight. That's two pressure fighters going at it. Judges will not be required for that one. But if I'm Duarte, I wouldn't bank on getting that title opportunity right away. So I also think if I'm Duarte, I don't want to wait around and hope the WBA orders him to make another type of fight. I want to stay active. There was some talk before the fight that Duarte would face the winner of the co-main event, Regis Prograis, Jojo Diaz. We're going to get to that in a minute. I don't think that's going to happen now. I think that's off the table. I don't know if you have any thoughts on what Duarte should do next, but I don't think waiting around for Gary Antuanne Russell is something that makes any sense. I think he needs to fight at least one more time before the end of the year in order to keep his momentum going.
I agree, and I think he shouldn't fight a 12-round fight. He should go back to doing a 10-round fight, and because he's a physical fighter. He doesn't want to keep facing these physical pressure fighters and getting in these wars. So if you can get,
what's the point of that though? If you got to win a title, you got to fight 12 rounds.
Get a stay busy fight.
I guess we got to fight 12 rounds to win a championship.
I understand that, but I don't think he's going to get a title shot next. So a stay busy fight is what I'm saying. Because look, if he's going to get a title shot, it's going to be a guy like Russell, and man, Russell carries a lot of power, and from that left-handed stance, that's going to be a vicious type fight. I think that you can build that fight a little bit more and keep building the stock of Oscar Duarte. I mean, he's becoming a ticket seller. You put him in Chicago and LA and Texas, he's going to be a ticket seller. So I think Golden Boy Promotions they know what they're doing. Keep putting butts in seats, making him an attraction, and a stay busy fight. You don't need to go straight for the title. He has something more important than a belt, and that's popularity and a following that he's building. So keep working that.
Yeah, Golden Boy does have 140-pounders in their stable. I mean, Arnold Barboza was on Twitter calling for that fight against Duarte. That's not a terrible fight. Same kind of clash of styles. A winnable fight, I think, for Duarte. But, yeah, I think he's got to stay busy and keep active. For Kenneth Sims, I hope he doesn't take too much of a step back because of this. He fought well. He didn't embarrass himself. He a couple rounds here or there, and he could have wound up winning that fight. Again, Golden Boy has guys at 140. There are guys at 140 that he can fight. I like to see Kenneth Sims Jr. stay active and get back in the ring before the end of the year as well.